Hey everyone, Joe here. In this episode, Scott and I had the privilege of chatting with retired Air Force Chief Master Sergeant Ericka Kelly. Ericka is presently a John Maxwell certified professional speaker, executive coach, and trainer, and was a 17th Command Chief Master Sergeant for the Air Force Reserve Command. During our discussion, Ericka shared her extraordinary story of resilience and how she defied the odds to be hugely successful in both the Air Force and in law enforcement. In case we have listeners that are sensitive to the subject of sexual and domestic abuse, we want to warn you that we did have candid and very important discussions on these topics. We learned a lot from her, and we know that you will too. Enjoy.
Life, learning, leadership, the Llama Lounge.
Yo, welcome back to the Llama Lounge, a dialogue on life, learning, and leadership. This is Joe, and I have with me my big brother. What's going on, Scott?
I'm doing great, sir. How are you?
I am doing pretty awesome, man. Primarily because I've been excited to have this discussion with our guest for weeks. I'm telling you, I know you have too, because this is an amazing superstar we have today, isn't?
Yeah, no, completely agree, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So today we have a very special guest, as I mentioned, retired U.S. Air Force Chief Master Sergeant Ericka Kelly, who is presently a John Maxwell certified professional speaker, an executive coach, and a trainer. She was the 17th Command Chief Master Sergeant for the Air Force Reserve Command and a Senior Enlisted Advisor to the Chief of the Air Force Reserve. In addition to her executive consulting and military career, Chief Kelly has more than 20 years of government management and law enforcement experience. She serves as a criminal investigator for the Department of Homeland, Customs, and Border Protection, the Office of Professional Responsibility. And I will tell you, she's someone that I looked up to and as a kind of a growing senior non-commissioned officer and a leader. Ericka, thank you so much for being here today. How are you?
I am doing fantastic, Scott, Joe. You guys are pretty amazing. So I am excited.
You.
I am excited to have this conversation with you guys.
Oh man, I know. There's no way you could be more excited than us because we've been talking about this for a while. You know, like I said, I'm not even blowing smoke. That I remember seeing you as a leader here when I was learning how to be a non-commissioned officer and a senior non-commissioned officer at Travis Air Force Base. And then luckily I got the opportunity to see you a couple more times as my career progressed. And you're just the epitome of the leader that I've always wanted to be like. So thank you for this opportunity.
Well, you're very kind. And I know that you and I connected for years. So we're buddies. And then Scott, just from knowing you from Scott Air Force Base.
That's right. Yeah.
The amazing things that you have done. I'm doing in my head, I'm doing my little happy dance right now.
Oh. That's awesome. So we always want to, because we got so much stuff I want to cover today in the limited time we have. And the first thing we want to share is maybe if you can kind of tell us, how did Ericka Kelly become the Ericka Kelly that she is today? A little bit about your story, your background, anything that you can share with us, because we've always discovered that that when people share their stories, we can glean so much wisdom from the challenges they may have gone through and adversity, and we can grow a lot ourselves. So we would love for you to share some of the experience, trials, tribulations that you may have gone through.
Well, thank you. Let me say this before I share a little bit of my story. And that is that I spent many years being ashamed of my story, hiding who I had been, and also not thinking about it because I thought that it would highlight something that would make people judge me. And some of the things that I thought people would judge me on was that I grew up poor. Some things that I thought people would maybe see as weakness I thought was because I stayed in horrible relationships as a woman. So let me just share how I got to the United States first,
Sure.
because I think that's key. How did a half naked little kid in Central America, dirt floors, muddy roads, gets to America, and what decisions in this amazing country needed to take place in order for me to be here with you, with the two of you today, right?
Wow.
So the story is very simple. I grew up in a little shack in Central America, Guatemala. I am the oldest of three. So by the time I was 5 years old, my brothers were 4 and 3. And I say 5 years old because that's my earliest recollection of how life can kick you pretty hard. And that's the age of when my mother decided that she was going to leave. And when she left us, she locked the door of that little shack from the outside. And she left me and my two brothers in a place that yesterday was a safe zone and today was a trap. We were in that room for 7 days. And in those 7 days, we had water, but no food. And my grandmother was the one who saved us, rescued us, and we went to live with her to another little shack, right? In pure poverty in Central America, in which sometimes I share with people that my brothers and I ate ants to survive. We ate a lot of fruit because it's a tropical country, but bugs were something that we just ate to survive. And I share that story not because I want people to feel sorry for me, but I need people, and I think all of us need to know where we come from. And one of the things that I always tell people today is that do not let your present conditions dictate your future. Don't look at your conditions right now and say, I can't do it because, right? I'm always telling people, dream big. And I also share sometimes what a 5-year-old did in that room for 7 days, right? In a second, I was not 5 anymore. I was the older sister. I was in charge of the survival of my two brothers. And how do I get out? How do I plan? And now I look back and I go, and I'm looking at you guys, talking to you guys, and I'm saying, I'm talking about a 5-year-old.
Wow.
So, but I know my experience, and I can tell you that I told my brother, we need to make noise, right? We need to hit those thin walls, and we need to tell people that we're in here. And that's what we did for 7 days. My little brother was maybe 3. We just pinched him. So he would cry and cry and cry and cry until someone heard us. So sometimes I also share the story that on the 5th day, possibly the 5th day, I heard someone outside. And I thought, and I still to this day think it was my grandma. And they were playing with the door and making noise. And the feeling, guys, oh my gosh, the feeling of we are being rescued, right? That human emotion of understanding that we're going to get out of what's going to kill us. And almost exactly at the same time, I'm feeling this high that someone is going to rescue us. And at the same time, I'm listening to the steps of that person walk away. And me pounding on that wall, saying that we're in there, screaming on that wall that we're in there, and that person walking away. And so I felt that high of life is awesome. And then almost exactly at the same time, I felt the hopelessness,
Wow.
the hopelessness of realizing that there was, talking about a 5-year-old, the possibility of the three of us dying in that room. And it took 2 more days for my grandma to truly rescue us. And it took 2 more days after that happened for us not to give up and for us to keep pounding on that wall. So that's my foundation, Joe. That is, and I know that, we're talking about retirement and amazing military career, but that's my core.
Yeah.
Wow. That's just such a powerful story. And I don't want to skip anything, but to the point where I met you so many years later, and the kindness of, and the just the beauty of a person like you, and to know that, you came from there, what a story of resilience. So it's just so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Well, I appreciate you for saying that, but within that story of resilience, if I can share with the two of you that there was a period of time where anger drove me, right?
Yes.
My mother left us. I don't know if to die. I just know that she left us. And we go and live with our grandmother. By the age I'm maybe 12, there was an earthquake in Central America, big enough that it made the news in the United States, where my mother lived in California with her new husband.
Wow.
And because of those news, she told her husband, so this is family drama, guys. She told her husband that she wanted to go see her mother and see how her mother was doing, never telling her husband that she had 3 children.
Wow.
So she went, and the little shack that we lived in with our grandma now was completely destroyed. And our home was 4 sheets in the middle of the street. And having the Red Cross come over and help us, the American Red Cross help us. So that's the picture that my mother, that left when I was 5, come back when I'm 12. She sees us in the middle of the street, and she made the command decision at that time to bring us with her to the United States. She did not make a strategic decision. She did not think about it. She just said, you guys are coming with me. But guess what? You guys, what do you mean, you guys? Who are you, lady?
Oh, yeah.
So I share with people all the time. I said, anger, oh my gosh, it just rooted in my heart. And I was bold enough that I asked her, how dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you come back? And really, for what? Right? To take us away from our home. And I'm looking at 4 sheets, right? I'm like, are you taking us away from this? Right? But that was my home. That's where I felt loved. That's where I felt secure. And here's this strange woman that is just making a decision that she's going to take us to the United States, where who knows what giants live in the United States, right? So it was a hard journey, Scott and Joe, hard journey. We walked through Mexico. We walked through Mexico. We got to my mom ran out of money because she only had her plane ticket. She never told her husband about the 3 of us. So we walked. I remember, and recently I told this story. There was in Mexico, in little villages, Mexico is large percent Catholic. And there's these little kiosks as you travel through Mexico, and there are saints in those kiosks. And sometimes you find a little dish of food. Sometimes you find a little dish with money in it. Well, in the journey, my mother took the money from one of those kiosks, and that fed us. right? For
Mhm.
how long, I don't
Right.
know. That money kept us alive for a little while during the journey. And years later, I remember my mother making a trip to Mexico and me asking her where she was going. And she said, I don't know where I'm going. I just know where it's at.
Yeah.
I just know how to get there. And she made the trip by herself. And that trip was to return the money
Oh,
that she
wow.
had
Mm.
taken from that kiosk,
Wow.
and to give back to the community that for that moment in our lives kept us alive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, so I'm trying to think of a question to ask. Wow, that was
Because,
so
all right.
when she came back, was there like a recognition of who she was, or did it? I mean, did it take some sort of explaining, or did you know right off the bat, like, oh, this is the lady that abandoned us?
Well, I can tell you that when she left and my grandmother rescued us,
Hmm.
my mother faded away
Right.
from my memory. She did.
Yeah.
And my grandmother became my mother.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So when she came back, we're dealing with the destruction of our home. We're dealing with, uh, for the first time, me being exposed to death,
Yeah.
in which neighbors and children and adults have died because of the earthquake. And I also find this woman that comes back, and I recognize her, but I don't. I'm looking for files in my little brain, can't find them. And my grandmother, I remember she sat the three of us down and she said, um, Anna is what her nickname was, not her real name. So my mother's fake name is Anna for this discussion.
Gotcha.
But yeah, but she said, Anna is my daughter.
Yeah.
So in my 12-year-old brain, I'm thinking, I have an older sister.
Mm.
And so at the same time that I'm processing that thought, she says, and she's your mother and she's taking you away. And that's what it's like, no, I have gone through enough chaos already, right? At a 12-year-old.
Right.
I have gone through enough chaos for you, strange lady, to take me away from the only foundation that I know, which is my grandma.
Yeah.
Right? And I call my grandmother mother. And I don't know if I should be ashamed or not, but this is the reality, guys. The reality is that I was never able to call my biological mother mother.
Yeah.
Mm.
I don't know how I walked around for years and years, even now, but I don't call her mom.
Mm.
And so there's still a relationship there, right? Is there, or no?
So let me run really quickly with what happened.
Mhm.
Okay.
12 years old, we get to the States. My stepdad, John, not happy at all.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Can you imagine? You said you have 4 kids, right? Can you
Yeah.
imagine being happy with your wife? My mom already had a 1-year-old daughter with her
Mhm.
husband, and here she comes with 3 kids saying, either
Mm.
take me or not.
Yeah. Some explaining to do.
So I'm explaining to
Yeah.
you for sure.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, because of the way that she made the decision to bring us, and because it was so chaotic with my stepdad, by the age of 16, 17, we lived in Las Vegas and I was a homeless teenager.
Mm.
Mm.
So,
Wow.
right? So being abandoned, earthquake, coming to the United States, and then at 16, I didn't speak English.
Right.
I could barely say hello, but I saw myself being homeless in the streets of Las Vegas. I was already working, but nonetheless, I was a homeless teenager, and
Right.
only thing that I wanted to do was finish school. For whatever reason, people told me, if you're gonna make it in the United States, one, you have to, and I couldn't tell you who told me, but enough people told me that I believed them. You need to learn the language and you need to go to school. So I thought going to school in America was finishing high school. So my only goal in life was to finish high school. So I worked during the day, and I went to school at night. And a friend from work, she gave me shelter. She moved her kids from one room to another, and she said, pay me whatever you can pay me for rent. And she allowed me as a 16-year-old to finish high school, and after high school for me to get my own apartment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
That's amazing. To have somebody who's there for you at that moment where you really needed somebody too. That's wow.
Yeah, and that's a miracle of life, right?
Yeah.
Right.
When I talk to people, I tell them, we do nothing alone. We do nothing alone. And don't be so prideful that someone is doing this and giving you when you're down, giving you a hand, and for you to go, oh, nope, no, thank you, I'm okay, right? I'm always telling people, take that hand, right? Get on your feet, regroup, and then move forward, right? But don't have that horrible pride that can destroy you if you're not careful.
Oh, so how did, going back to when your
Yes,
mother
Joe.
came to, I was trying to think back, like, because I'm getting the perspective of what you're thinking, right? But how did your siblings take that? How were they responding?
Oh, Joe. Okay, I'm gonna be quiet for a second. Okay, so this is what's going on. Oh my gosh, 3 almost identical circumstances. So it would be like us, the 3 of us, right?
Right.
And you know how we always say in leadership, we see the world from where we stand, we see the world from where we sit. Well, the same thing happened with my brothers and I. So the brother that follows me, when I shared with you guys that I was homeless at the age of 16, well, maybe 6 months after, he was also kicked out of the house. But that made him be maybe 15 and a half in the streets of Las Vegas. And I had that friend that took me in. He had no one. So he ate out of dumpsters, hooked up with whoever, survival, right? So what I'm sharing with you guys is I'm not judging my brother, and I'm not judging my mother either.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, but survival is survival. So he ended up, my brother, his name is Byron, he ended up in and out of jail, doing drugs, not doing drugs. And at one point in our lives, very young lives, I went this way and he went that way. And sometimes I tell people I could maybe be in the same restaurant with my brother and I would not recognize him because it's been, I'm going to date myself, but it's been over 30 years since I seen him or heard his voice.
Wow.
Yeah. So one life goes this way. And why wouldn't I, right? So I talk about the law of sacrifice, but why wouldn't I look for my brother? Well, by now, I want to be in the military. By now, I do want to go to school. By now, what he's doing, it would have been really easy for me to go into drugs and go into gangs and become a prostitute in Las Vegas, right? And do all kinds of crazy things. Something in me, and I had key people in my life that just slowly, right, moved me to another road. To another road. But the comfort in the easy road would have been to do what my brother did. Yeah.
It's a more familiar road, and so that almost makes it more comfortable.
Of course.
Right?
Of course. Yes.
But even though a more quality of life might seem like that's the easy path, you have to overcome so much to get to it, whereas the hard road is so familiar to a lot of people that they just go back to it.
And that is so key, Scott, because some of us will face taking a risk on something, and because it's a risk, we are paralyzed from taking that first step forward. And what we do is we turn back to what is comfortable, and we never grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is very, very painful. But yeah, so that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at, Scott and Joe. I'm 16. I'm deciding that I do want to go to school. What else can I do? And this is the part in my life in where I meet an individual that was key in my life, and it was a gentleman that I ended up marrying. And so please picture this and just absorb it, because I already know that there was red flags.
Sure.
He was 32 and I was 16.
That's a red flag.
That's
That's a red flag.
But
Yeah.
but remember my background.
Yeah.
So I saw this
Right.
individual, possibly, I don't know, as a father figure, a protector, a savior, whatever, very controlling, extremely jealous, and then later on, extremely physically abusive.
Yeah.
And this is where I said, do I talk about this? Well, why not? Because I saw his jealousy as someone caring for me. I saw his fist when he was hitting me as at least someone cares.
Yeah. Because when you've never had that,
Correct.
that attention and that
Right.
yeah, I can understand that.
Right. So for a normal world, right? A normal person, all that is like, Ericka, for the love of God, what have you done? What decision for your life have you done? Well, guys, I didn't have any modeling.
Yeah.
Right.
I did not have mentors. I did not have parents. I did not have anyone. I just had the streets.
Yeah.
And then here's this guy, and I remember, oh my gosh, I remember in those days, if you dial 911, the police would come, but they wouldn't take anybody away. Someone needed to press charges. The laws have changed a little. So I remember, can I share a quick story?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So I remember just being, he never hit my face, but my body was all bruised. So I remember just getting beaten, and I am scrambling for the phone. I'm looking, and I finally get it. How did I dial 911? I have no idea. No idea. But what I do remember is that he continues to hit me, and then there's a knock at the door. And then he's like, clean up your blah, blah, blah face, right? And I'll be right back. So he was a gun collector. He goes to get one of his 45s, and he places it right in the middle of my back and tells me to open the door for the officer. So when I'm opening the door for the officer, I'm like, clean my face, and the gun is right in the middle of my back. And I have to tell the officer, that everything's fine, that it was an argument, and I dialed by mistake because I'm, emotional and reactive. And the door closes, and I remember him telling me that I would never escape him, ever. Escape him. And I was so controlling. I tell this to some airmen. Now I'm sharing this story with a lot of Marines and Army guys and gals. But I was so controlled, guys, that I would get up in the morning and go get a glass of water. That's all I was allowed to get. And you guys know me, but my frame is small, right? I'm 5'2", about 110, 115. And he would tell me that I was too fat. So every morning when I got up with my little glass of water, I would ask him, can I eat today? And he would tell me if I could eat that day or not. If we went to a fast food restaurant, he would order a kid's meal for me and then cut the cheeseburger or hamburger in half. And that would be my food for the day. So I'm like, seriously, God?
Yeah.
Right? Seriously, God? So, yeah. Let me go back to when I was 12. I was amazed to be in the United States because I never seen buildings, never seen real structures, if that makes sense to you guys.
Yeah.
And I remember just being, my two brothers and I, we were fascinated by just opening doors because doorknobs were like non-existent, right? So we were like, so I tell people,
with everything.
yeah. So I tell people, I got to be the MATCHCOM command chief, and now I am a senior special agent with Homeland Security. Wow. And then I'm like, and then I look back and I get little flashbacks. I couldn't even turn the switch on because electricity was foreign to me, right?
Right.
So it's just a freaking miracle of life.
Yeah.
And just being able to trust other people. If I would have trusted myself, I'm telling you right now, I would have stayed in the hall.
Yeah.
I borrowed trust from other people that saw potential in me.
So when did you sort of make that break from your husband? Like, at what point did you recognize, like, this is wrong? Like, this is not, because again, you had no frame of reference before what was right, what was wrong.
Right.
And so at what point did you decide this is not where I'm supposed to be?
I knew that it was wrong enough that I didn't tell people I was getting beat up.
That's true. Yeah.
Right. I knew that it was wrong enough because I slept with a knife under my pillow because one day, and forgive me for saying this, but one day when he was raping me that night, I would have the courage enough to stab him and kill him. So I knew, Scott, that it was wrong to feel that way.
Sure.
Right? It was wrong for me to wish that every time he went to work that something would happen to him. Right? So I did not go into the Air Force until I was 22.
Okay.
And the only reason that I went into the Air Force is because of my husband. Remember,
get away?
Remember, I had to ask permission.
Yeah.
Right? I was completely controlled. And I remember him reading a newspaper and watching an Air Force commercial. And I'm like, oh yes, right? Because the military is different than Central America. It was in me. It was in me that I wanted to, I don't know. I wanted to prove to the world that I was worthy of being in this country.
Yeah.
And so I saw that commercial and I go to Scott and I can see it like it was yesterday. I go to Scott and I go, sir, not honey, right?
Wait, his name was Scott?
Yes.
Oh boy, great, thanks.
We'll just Scott, we'll call you Wayne for the rest of this episode. It's fine.
You know what? Sometimes when I tell this story, I'm like, is there any Scotts in the audience?
Yeah.
But I went to Scott and I said, sir, I couldn't call him by his first name. Can I join the Air Force? And in that time, it was the Air Force Reserve, but I knew that I was going to be gone for about a year, because of the training. And I said, can I do this? And then he's like, are you effing crazy? And I go, I think I can do it, right? At least allow me to try. And then he says, do you not understand how worthless you are? No one is going to want you. So do the effing you want. So permission, brothers, right? I got my permission and I went to a recruiter And the recruiter said, you can be either a mechanic or a medic. And at that time, I wanted to be a nurse instead of now law enforcement. At that time, I wanted to be a nurse. I'll be a medic. And I took the test and I went through the physical and everything else. And that's when my true change happened, Joe and Scott. That's when it happened. That's when the military started giving me, the Air Force started giving me seeds of goodness.
Yeah.
Because my whole life until then had been, I was a zero. I was worthless. What mother leaves their child? Who's a teenager, and homeless in Las Vegas. So I had all this negative weight on my shoulders. And then the Air Force slowly started saying, you pass the test, you qualify. Yeah. You're good enough to be here. You're good enough to enter this room. You're good enough physically to, and then it was like, did the change happen overnight? Absolutely not. But man, it was so awesome to go back to that home and say the Air Force said yes.
Wow.
The Air Force said yes. And it was about 4 months before I went to basic training, right? Swear in, and then 4 months later, I'm going to basic training. And I remember staring at that metal bed. And I remember, and I tell this story all the time. People think that I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy. Guys, I'm not crazy. I stare at that bed, and on the side of me, I'm hearing these young ladies cry or whisper, "What the heck?" Right?
Yeah.
And I'm not whispering, and the TI's going up and down and screaming and da 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 da, and I'm like, I'm not. I'm staring at that bed, and I'm looking up at the ceiling, thinking, God.
Yeah.
My gosh, thanking God that was the first night in many to come that I wasn't going to be beaten, and that after the beating, I wasn't going to get raped.
Wow.
So perspective, right?
Yeah, no
right.
kidding.
So how do you measure a bad situation?
Yeah.
Compared to what?
Exactly. Yeah. What's your
Right?
what's your frame of reference? Yeah.
Because and I became friends, and I'm still friends with some of the ladies that went to basic training with me. Compared to them, with mom and dad, beautiful childhood, normal childhood. What's normal? Whatever, right? But having a home, having a foundation until, right? So we all go into the military for sure for different reasons.
Yeah.
And my reason was survival. Yeah.
I just can only imagine coming from, what you had came from all the way to that point. And now you get the first taste of what meritocracy looks like. You can actually work hard and be giving, and you can qualify for things. And for most of us, I was like, oh my goodness, what decision did I make? Why am I here looking at this bed on that first day? And you're looking at it like, this is amazing.
Yes. And that night is the night, as I'm hearing tears and screams and the MTI is going crazy. That's the night that I felt such energy inside my heart that's when I said, this is forever. Wow. This is going to be my life. This is where I want to stay forever. And I'm telling you right now, if I didn't hit the higher tenure, I would still be serving.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it because I'm one of those people that retires. Scott, some people retire and it's like, no, I don't want to go.
Exactly. Yeah.
And even after retirement, they're still talking about the war stories. Yeah. Now, I talk about war stories, and I love my military career, but it was a chapter in my life And the only thing that I did in that chapter is I kept growing. So when I
Sure.
look back at that chapter, I can go, that was pretty amazing, right?
Right.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So-
that must have been some of the best sleep you had too
Yeah.
up to this point in your life, right? Even
Yeah.
though that first night you probably get what, 45 minutes of sleep before they start
yeah.
waking you up
Yeah,
again.
no, I'm telling you, that was a life changing, and that's when I realized how chaotic my real life was.
Yeah.
Mhm.
My real
Yeah.
life was, because it was so good, and I understood that what people were doing and how people were correcting and people were molding all of us,
Mhm.
not just me, but all of us. It was for a purpose. And before I didn't have a purpose, I was just surviving. So when I tell people that the Air Force saved my life, guys, the Air Force saved my life. I remember running again after a fight, and I only had, I don't know, I only had like a thin shirt because, he would hit, but he would also tore my clothes. So I remember running behind an alley, and I'm covering myself, right? I'm running, but I'm covering myself. And the police is called because people can see me running through the alley. And when the police catches up to me, I remember very clearly that this officer takes his jacket off and puts it on me and tells me that if I don't do something, not him,
Mm-hmm.
not Scott,
The other Scott.
the other,
Yeah,
not you,
No,
Scott.
not me. The other guy.
No, the other Scott. If I did not do something, they would find my body
Mm-hmm.
in the desert somewhere, and they would do it soon because the violence was escalating so fast. So, no, yes, I forever will be grateful to the military. Forever I will always be an airman, and I will always tell my story because I need individuals, men and women, to understand that forgiveness is important, resiliency is important, relationships are important, and the bonds that you build. You guys know my roots. I
Mhm.
don't have family, right? The Air Force, you became my family.
Yeah,
So when
your
I say
family-
brothers and sisters, you
Yeah.
are my brothers.
Yeah, your family's 300,000 strong right now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I held on. I held on to you.
When you joined, did you initially join reserve or active duty, or what was your initial enlistment?
So during my tenure, I went in and out of the reserve component in the active duty side of the house.
Yeah.
But I joined. I don't think that I would have been able to go active duty because of my situation. But I said, it's only once a month, and it's only a little bit, and that's how I was able to get out.
Okay.
So so my whole time was under the umbrella of the reserve MatchCom,
Right.
but with the understanding that within those years of a long career, I was active duty plenty of times.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Now I was just trying to piece together how it all worked with being, because when you joined, I mean, you weren't completely separated from him. It wasn't like you said,
No,
I'm in the military. You were still living with him.
I was
Yeah.
still
So you.
married. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So after basic training and after tech school, where did I go back?
Back. Yeah. To Vegas.
Yeah, I went back, and I remember being at the airport, being tired, and remember those. I think we still have them. Those long duffel green bags that we just put everything from basic training.
Yeah.
And I was so tired. I sat on a bench, and I'm leaning on my heavy duffel bag, and I closed my eyes, and I guess I fell asleep. And the next thing I know is, my dear husband, he pulled the duffel bag from underneath me really fast, and my body just leaned forward. And that was my wake-up call that I was back home. So
Wow.
change takes time. And change takes time. So did I go back and, no, I'm an airman, don't touch me, don't do this, ta 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 ta? Yes, I did. Once. Once. Until he showed me who was stronger, until he showed me who was in charge, until he showed me that if I said something or I try to hit back, he would hit 3 times as hard, right? No, I stayed with Scott, and my only salvation was that at that time I was assigned to Luke Air Force Base, and I would drive to Phoenix from Las Vegas, little road at that time, and sometimes it would take me 5 hours, sometimes it would take me 6 hours, whatever. I didn't care. I was alone and safe. And when I did my weekends, man, I was a happy airman. Can I shred? Can I cut? Can I help? Can I learn? They're like, leave us alone, puppy dog.
Go back to your billeting and get some rest.
And I'm like, no, can I help you? Can I? And as a matter of fact, there was exercises and things where they had already selected teams, and no one knew, obviously, what was going on in my real life. And I would go, can I go to that exercise? No, we already have everyone. We don't have the budget, whatever. I'll do it for free. I just want to be with you guys.
Yeah.
And so my whole military career started by me, you know how it says don't volunteer? I don't agree with that. I volunteer for everything. I learn from good, bad, and ugly. And it built credibility with the people that were either the influencers or the decision makers in my life, that when the time came to give me an opportunity, they gave me an opportunity. Yeah. So it took a little while for me to divorce Scott, but I finally did. And he stayed in Vegas and I kept going. Right.
So I'm glad we moved past Scott, because every time I hear his name brought up in that light,
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm like, so let's move on to the good stuff.
You're so lucky, Scott. I was about to go back and ask more about it. But just to give you a reprieve, I'll let you go to the next part.
But please remember that I don't have any resentment towards him. I don't have any resentment towards my mother. I don't. Now, we started this conversation by me saying that I spent many years angry.
Sure.
And that's true. I spent a lot of years being angry and asking, why me, right? Why don't I have that? Why don't I have this? Why am I not smart enough, right? Why am I so short? And so I spent a lot of time doing that. But it came a time in my life in which I had to forgive my mother. And this is what I learned. And this is years later, guys. So it's not like magic, right? This is hard work and uphill.
Yeah.
This is what I learned. And out of all people, my stepdad, John, right? I'm angry, I'm bitter, and I'm just frustrated. I'm like, I had a monster inside my ribcage, right? And I'm like, whatever pain I have felt, I'm going to give it back to whoever's in front of me that's weaker than me. Sounds kind of bad for me to say, but I'm sharing my raw feelings with the two of you.
Yeah.
But John was able to sit me down and say, Ericka, look at it from a different perspective. Okay, John, tell me. Your mom was married by the time she was 15. She had the 3 of you by the time she was 18. And by the time she was 20, she saw herself in a third world country as a single mom, right? Divorcing. She was 20 and my dad was 21. They got married when they were 15 and 16, right? So when she made that decision to leave, She was a young woman at the age of 20, and she locked the door to kill you guys. She might have done it to create distance, never thinking that it would take 7 days for someone to find you.
Mhm.
Right? So once I started seeing things that have happened in my life, and I started kind of looking at it, not from and I don't want to call myself victim, but from the other side, right? The side that's getting hit. And
The
I started
recipient.
looking, yes. And I started looking at it from the other side of the equation. Then forgiveness started replacing that anger and that resentment. Because my mom lives with me now.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
She is bedbound. She's paralyzed after a massive stroke.
Mm.
And I take care of her.
Yeah.
Wow.
And anger takes up so much energy.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Like you can't move forward in your life and progress and be happy and be successful and find ways to develop yourself if you're, at least in my experience, if you're angry about this and that and this person and that person. And sometimes the best weight to lift off your shoulders is to just say, you know what? I forgive you. Let's move on.
Yes.
And get past it. And not say you never forget, because obviously, things will come up to remind you about that. But you if you live your life angry at your circumstances, you will never be able to move beyond them.
No. And forgiveness allowed me also to have the freedom to not give control to others of my emotions.
Yes.
Right.
Don't give them your energy. Yeah.
Correct. So growing up in the United States, not easy. We came to Compton first, the first place we lived. So people thought I was dumb because of the language barrier. People in school would beat me up because I looked Mexican. And so Compton in those days, right now it's a little, Compton is mixed, a little bit mixed. But when I was growing up there, or the time that I spent there, it was mostly African American. So talk about, okay, every day, you don't belong here, so we're going to beat the heck out of you. And then the minute we open our mouths, little Mexican kids would know that we were not Mexican. So here we go again. They would just beat us because we were not Mexican. So it's like, so do you guys see the chaotic? I mean, it's just violent, so much just negative energy that my self-limiting beliefs were of me being worthless. Why wouldn't I believe that? I mean, what would make me think that I wasn't?
Yeah. Yeah, you're told your whole life. You're at least made to feel that way your whole life. So.
Yeah, told and shown. Yeah. So now you left Scott. I had to bring him up again. So you left Scott. You're serving, your country. And please don't let me skip anything if you want to share it. But like, how did we get to the point where you're doing law enforcement? Like, how do we go from from what how did you get to that point? Because I'm like, wow. Then you at some point you got into
so now I'm like,
right.
So I come back from basic training, tech school, and things are very chaotic. I'm going to UNLV in Las Vegas, pursuing a nursing degree. And then I thought, you know what? I will be a great medic in the Air Force, but this is not for me. And I switched my major to criminal justice. And my goal then changed to being a DEA agent.
Wow.
So I wanted to prove to the world. So it's all about self-worth and self-value and transformation and evolution of a person, right? So what's driving me in those years is that I want to prove to the two of you that I am worth something. That was my drive, right? And and what was fueling that drive was anger, because you thought I was dumb, you thought I was too weak. So I'm like, I want to prove to the two of you that I'm not. So I chose DEA. I got my bachelor's in criminal justice only to be a DEA agent. No other agency, only a DEA agent. And I remember, and again, this is years and years ago, but I remember being in Egypt with the Air Force. And I'm going from Egypt to Somalia back and forth. By then I'm flying, I'm a crew member flying airback. So I'm a medic in the back of the plane. And I'm in Egypt. And where does the DEA find me? In Egypt.
Wow.
And the DEA says, you have an academy date. You're awesome. And we'd love for you to be a special agent with us.
Wow.
And I'm like, touchdown? I have, right? Because that was my only drive. That was my only dream.
Yeah. Wow.
And then this happens. When is the academy date? Blah, blah. But I'm deployed. We don't care. What do you mean you don't care? Can I be put in another class when I get back? No. The government's going to go into a government freeze, hiring freeze. And if we don't put you in this class, it's going to be between 3 to 5 years, maybe, if we select you again.
Wow.
So again, going back to that little shack of yes. And then boom.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
I get that amazing phone call saying, we have a date for you, Ericka.
The knock on the door.
And then within seconds,
The footsteps.
Yeah.
Now it's, if you don't take it now, you don't have a slot. So my only dream, my only hope was the DEA. And then again, I had to say, why just the DEA? There's other agencies, there's this, there's that. So I ended up coming back from Somalia. I ended up applying for the Department of Justice, and I became a special agent with immigration out of all places. So I was an immigration agent for a good number of years. Wow. Before Homeland was created, obviously after September 11. Yeah.
Wow. And how is so you're really at this point. So we go from that there's so much to unpack here, right? So
Am
we go
I confusing you, Joe?
Oh no. I'm just trying to package this question the correct way. So you go from a battered woman to excel, and not even just being accepted, but excelling in male dominant career fields. I mean, how does this happen, right? I know it has a lot to do with your mindset, but if you can help kind of relay, because you're going from, like I said, battered woman, feeling hopeless, right, to a point where you're excelling because you're controlling your behavior, but there's anger in there too, right? So it's like there's all this stuff happening at one time, and then you get to this point where you're living. Maybe it's not your dream, that original dream, but it's kind of you're learning how to adjust and be adaptable and live a new dream. How do we get to that point?
With a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
And I think earlier I shared with the two of you that I borrowed belief. Because at the beginning I didn't have belief. But this is what would happen, Joe. I would have, in the Air Force, I would have a supervisor or a peer. And that person would go, what you did was really good. And I was like, whoa. And when someone said, you have potential, my inner voice would say, if they really knew me, they would realize what a fraud I am. So I had to, and that's what I'm saying. If I would have not believed in what other people were telling me, I would have gone my brother's path. But I chose to believe you, Scott. I chose to believe you, Joe, in which I would say, you really think so? And I would silence
Mm.
my inner voice and say, I don't want to let Scott down or Joe down. So if he believes that about me, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it afraid. And then it got to a point in which I then started believing in me. I had enough confidence to not see that you were on the other side of the road. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to suck it up and I'm going to go across the road because Joe's waiting for me. Then it started kind of turning. And I would see the road and I would go, we need to cross the road. And then I would see you, Scott, and I would go, and then you would ask me, Ericka, you ready? And I would not wait for you to walk before me so I could follow, right? I would go, come on, brother. And
That's
we
nice.
would walk together. And then it got to the point in which I took self-development and self-growth so seriously that then I would see the road and I would see that I might cross and land on my face, and I would welcome landing on my face because that would teach me something
Yeah.
that I could get up from and then look and go, come on, guys. And then it wasn't about, I teach a lot on the classes that I teach a lot about success and significance. And when we measure success, most of the time we measure success by individually what we have accomplished, right? But if you need to have a little bit of success to have significance, right? But once you move from having personal success and then you move to significance, that's when you are feeding others.
Yeah.
And that's when you're giving. That's when you are not holding on to anything. And you just have open hands. And you know what? Anybody is welcome to take whatever they want because I have zero ownership. Zero ownership. If I fall, I know I can get up.
Yeah.
If someone punches me in the face, guess what? Been punched before. So the unknown doesn't scare me.
Yeah.
And me hiding my past, like I shared with you guys earlier, doesn't scare me either. Because I'm talking to two amazing men right now. And I can tell you that I feel extremely comfortable sharing some things that I would have never, ever talked about years ago.
Yeah.
Because
Wow.
I wanted to hold on to that image, right? Well,
Right.
I'm a master sergeant. You know, what are they going to think if,
Right.
Yeah.
or I am law enforcement, and so no weakness, no this, no that. But I learned very quickly in law enforcement. And going back to, I'm so sorry, Joe, I took like a detour.
No, please.
And going back to your question about male-dominated career fields, in the Air Force, there's more females than other branches of the military. But nonetheless, it is male-dominated. Because I was a risk taker as an airman, I ended up working with the Army quite a bit. And I also work with the Marines quite a bit. So in the Air Force, there was this, especially in the medical field, there was this nice mix of male-female, and also male-female in leadership roles.
Yeah.
But in other branches of the military, not so much. And in other branches of the military, then your physical, right, endurance is what dictates if you're good or not. Because that's, you know, again, we're going back to survival. So I worked very hard. I used to power lift. So I was a weightlifter. I
I'm learning all kinds of stuff today about you. I did not know you were a power lifter. Wow.
I make sure that if I was going to be in a male-dominated environment, that I could carry my weight.
Mm-hmm.
And I never justified my existence. So, I remember in my civilian side of the house getting picked as a special agent and being assigned to this specific squad. And I was excited, right? Shiny badge. I got this job downtown Los Angeles, and I am a special agent. And then I walked into this room where I'm the only female, and all the guys just look at me like, get the hell out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, hi guys, like little puppy dog, hi guys. And they're like, get the hell out. And it's not their eyes saying it, it's their voice saying it. You don't belong here. And I'm like, oh yes, I do. I was assigned, and this is I think you're my supervisor. And they're like, I'm serious, get the hell out, because you're gonna put all of us in danger. Right? And what was their mentality? Why was I hired? I was hired because I qualified. I was hired because I had good grades in school. I passed the fitness, not female, but male standards, because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't being hired because I was a girl. Mm-hmm. But they didn't know that. The only thing they knew is that I was female, Hispanic, and that somehow there was a quota that needed to be met, and I was that. So again, in their eyes, I had no value.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, well, how am I going to survive this? And this is what I did. I don't know what others have done, but this is what I did in the Air Force. And this is what I did in a joint environment. And this is what I did with the guys in my civilian world. And that is that if you, Scott, and I were paired up for the day, I would be, and I already knew you hated me. I already knew that if I got shot, you would go, see, we knew she was unsafe, right? I already knew you did not have my 6. Mm-hmm. But I did not.
Not me, really, though.
No.
Yeah, just so the listeners don't get the wrong idea about me.
Scott's getting self-conscious now. He's been labeled a couple different things during this.
But you know what I mean? You don't want to work with me. But I decided that I was going to be the best partner you were going to have for that shift, that I was going to do the best. And when Joe and I worked together, and we would leave it alone, when Joe and I would work together, I would be that same person. If you cussed me out, if you did something, right, I wasn't confrontational. Right? I stood my ground because I needed to, but I gave you my best as an agent. And this is what started happening. In a group where I was not in, someone would say, Ericka is blank. They have never worked with me. They only know to say that because of their internal biases. Mm-hmm. And then you, Scott, would say, you know what? I worked with her last week. And that's what I thought too. Yeah. But, she had my 6 that day, right? And then if Joe was in the room, Joe would go, yeah, you know what? The other day she did X. Mm-hmm. And that's how I learned to build trust in a tribe where I wasn't welcomed. I never judged them for not liking me. I understood why they didn't like me. Sure. I mean, I remember arresting, 20 guys, bad guys. Mm. And I was the case agent. That means, you catch them, you clean them, right? Mm. And I called my supervisor and I said, I need help from the team. And my supervisor said, you're going to have to call them and you're going to ask for help. And I said, sir, this is not the time to be diplomatic, right? I have 20 bodies that I need to process. I need you to be the leader and to tell them that they have to help me, right? And I remember being in that processing floor, and one of the guys, everybody did their job, right? And I went to this guy and I said, hey, dude, thank you for helping me out. And then he goes, you know what? I don't like you. I'm not helping you out. I'm doing what I'm told.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I know that. That's why I'm thanking you. I'm thanking you because you're doing something that you don't want to do. I'm thanking you because you're putting the bias that you have against me to the side for the mission, to get this accomplished, to get the bigger fish, to do whatever we were going to do that day. And he's like, what do you mean you're not upset that I don't like you? I'm like, I don't control your emotions.
Yeah.
And but my thanks is not for you to help me because you like me. My thanks is because you put what you think about me to the side for the mission. And to this day, we're friends.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I talking too much?
No, it's just no. Man.
Well, you are a professional speaker, so
I know, right? Yeah, I know. We need to get. Well, we're definitely going to get into that, but I feel like we need to have episode 2 with Ericka just talking about some of the law enforcement experience. We need to have you on again, but just as Scott alluded to, we definitely want to talk a little bit about how you transitioned to a life of being a professional speaker. Like how did we get to that point, and what is it that you what does a day in the life of Ericka Kelly look like now in that career? Maybe not now with COVID, but like now as in transition out of some of the things you were doing before.
Yeah, so now it's sweatpants, t-shirts.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah. So this is what I did. I am right now helping a business owner, nonprofit, who is helping active duty members transition from active duty, either separating or retiring, into civilian side of the house. That mental side, right? That the military doesn't teach us that. They're like, thank you for your service. Bye-bye now. And then you have all that programming and all that conditioning. But what do I do out there, right? Yeah. Where your ribbons mean nothing, your rank. What? Are you a soldier? Were you in the army?
Everyone in the military is a trained mercenary, right? That's
or are you a pilot?
Yeah.
Pilot when they ask you about the Air Force. So this is what I did, and I was very intentional about this. 2 years, or maybe longer, before I retired, I knew, without a doubt in my mind, what my purpose in life was. And that was to share my story. And in order for me to share my story, I needed to be competent at telling my story.
Yeah.
And I needed to become a better communicator. I started looking at, and I knew that I was going to miss my tribe. Mm-hmm. I've seen brothers and sisters leave, and some very painfully. I've seen brothers and sisters leave, and they don't, somehow their growth stops after their military career. It's like, come on, right? And feel successful, right? So where is this weird gap? So anyway, 2 years before I retired, I decided that I needed to start transitioning out and be happy about my chapter in the military. And not look back and go, like some, right? Not all, but some. And that's when I thought, that's where I found John Maxwell. And I said, public speaking, well, I can be a public speaker. And they very quickly, so right now I have like 8 coaches.
Yeah.
And they're my coaches, they're my mentors, they're pretty awesome. But the same coach that teaches John Maxwell or coaches John Maxwell on public speaking is my public speaking coach.
Hmm.
So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
nonetheless, he very quickly said there's a big difference between being a public speaker, because the three of us can get in front of people and talk,
Mm-hmm.
and you're public speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a difference between being a public speaker and being a professional speaker, where people pay
Right.
to hear you speak. So
Right.
then that was my growth, right? That was like, okay, how do I get good at a craft that I need to get good at if I'm going to live my purpose? And once I started getting into John Maxwell and going to the conferences for John Maxwell, I realized I belong here.
Yeah.
It gave me that transition, that nice tribe, even though the John Maxwell tribe is, global, all over the, I think about 170 countries are part of John Maxwell. It doesn't matter. The DNA is the same. And the DNA is to give more than you receive. So, I'll share with you guys, now my formula is the 60-40. And that is give 60%. And if you get 40 back, awesome. If you don't expect it. But always give more than you receive.
Mm-hmm.
And be okay with that.
Yeah.
Right.
Be okay with that. Love is similar to that. I will only love you if you love me. I will only love you if you do that or that for me. If you don't do those things, then hands up. How about just loving to love?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
How about just giving to give?
Yeah.
How about you sharing what you know to share what you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very
That's super
simple.
powerful.
Because
That's so
if
powerful.
if you give for any other reason, are you really giving?
You're not.
You're trying to make a transaction, so that's not really giving. Yeah.
And you're still holding on to you.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
You're still holding on to what are people going to think about me? What am I going to gain out of it?
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
if you just give to give, man, it's pure freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do it all the time. I tell Scott I love him, even though I know he's not going to return, and he's not going to reciprocate the feeling back to me. But I still
But I
love
can
him.
tell he loves you.
So weird.
He's making little heart.
Man,
The listeners can't see, but I'm blushing.
yeah. But, man, Ericka, this is so awesome. I really think we need to do a part 2 one day, because there's so many more things I want to ask you, and about each part of it. I was just sitting here just listening, and I was just soaking in every word. And when you were talking about the whole analogy about crossing the street, I will tell you that you've been crossing that road, and I've been wanting to follow you across that road for a long time now. So thank you so much for being on here, sharing your story. And I know that people will listen to this and they're just going to be like, wow, you know what I mean? They're going to be nothing short of inspired to make a change for a positive in their life. And it might impact somebody, just that one person out there that hears the story and thinks, man, I need to do something, right? And hopefully they're not in the same dire circumstance you were in, but there's people out there like that, and they may need that nudge. So thank you so much.
I mean, we truly are our most limiting factor.
We are.
We are. We can have any type of consequence thrown our way, any type of obstacle thrown our way, but if we don't take the challenge and step up and move beyond it, then we only have ourselves to blame. So, Ericka, I thank you so much. It's great seeing you. I haven't seen you in a long time.
I know.
I really appreciate you joining us. That's okay.
Yeah,
I got a couple in there.
But
my hair's different too.
Can I know that we're running low, but long, but can I just share like 3 little points really fast?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
please.
And this is about life, and this is what I'm learning right now. And that is that sometimes if we're not careful about our own growth, we see our lives from a historian point of view. And that means that we don't move forward because this and this and this happened to us in the past. So we live in a historian perspective, right? or we don't move forward because we live in the reporter point of view, in which we're just looking at what's happening to us now. Like the teacher, Joe, that you were talking about. I'm a teacher. I need to see students in front of me. So you, as a reporter, you live life from your present circumstances, and that's all you see. Right. So if I was to challenge myself and anyone that listens to this amazing program, is to look at life from a futuristic point of view, in which what is ahead, and not what is ahead from a negative side, but what is ahead from opportunities, from growth, from change, from giving, from evolving, and like you have shared with some of your listeners, from transforming into, and that never stops, Scott. Transforming and evolving into your true purpose never stops. So you meet a goal, guess what? Look around.
What's next?
There's another one, right?
What's next? Yeah.
Yes. And guess what each goal is doing? Each goal, yes. Each goal is giving you a different awareness where you can then look at a bigger picture and then make better decisions. Anyway, I'm getting excited.
That is so amazing. And before we get into what we usually do, the rapid fire, we do this rapid fire leadership questions. We're going to ask you 4 real quick.
Hey, I'm ready. Boom.
But before that, because you talked about, the professional speaker gig and what you've been doing, how's a way that, and we'll add this to the show notes, how's a way that if somebody's interested in bringing you on, hopefully once some of this passes and it becomes a little bit safer out there in the environment, how do they get a hold of you? Is there a website or anything, or what's the best way?
So there is, thanks for asking, Joe. The best way right now is through my phone and through email. I mean, that's the simplest. I do have a website, but I am in the process of transforming that because, like we talked earlier, most of my drive was into public speaking, and God is good, and now I want to transform it into what we're doing right now, and that is Zoom. I don't have to, even though I love people. My message, their message, can be communicated through so many different sources that I am transforming myself right now. So right now, email and phone number.
How about, cool. Can they connect with you through LinkedIn, through your LinkedIn profile?
LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram.
Okay, great. Yeah. So we'll put some of those out there in your email address in case, there's somebody who listens to this that would like to get connected and maybe bring you on for some part of the goodness that comes with Ericka Kelly.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was at Travis a few months ago.
Were you?
Yeah.
What month were you here? I remember. Yeah, well, I don't. March was like 8 months long, so it felt like it, right? Yeah, because actually, I do remember that. And I had just got here and I was like in processing, and I was so upset I didn't get to come see you. Yeah. So I do remember that, man.
Yeah, but I'm here for you guys anytime you need me.
Yeah.
We thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna have a law enforcement episode. We're gonna listen to all of her great stories.
There I was, surrounded by fire.
Yeah. Awesome. So all right, cool. So the rapid fire, are you ready?
I'm ready. Bring it.
All right. First question. What is your favorite leadership trait?
Oh, relationship.
Oh. Yeah.
Relationship. Again, my core is we don't do anything alone. So it is building relationships with people, and it doesn't matter what the rank, title, or position is.
Awesome. That was great.
Right. Question number 2. What is your favorite quote?
My favorite quote. Oh my gosh. Well, I don't, because I have to translate everything. I can't say it verbatim, but it comes from Viktor Frankl, who...
Man's Search for Meaning. Do you have it?
Yes.
Yay!
Yes, one of
There
the
it
greatest
is.
books
This
of
is
all
like,
time.
this
Yes.
is the Man's Search for Meaning is like
That's right.
I love it.
Yes.
Anyway, in here, he says that there's a gap between
Stimulus and response.
Stimulus and response. Yes.
letting go. Right?
Yes.
And that gap is what dictates your character and dictates
Yeah.
who you are at a core.
Yeah.
So
Yes, absolutely.
I love my
Yeah,
book.
we are Frankel fans. Yeah.
You are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
That's why you're my brothers.
That's right.
Well, this might be already the question, but I'm not sure, so I don't want to make an assumption here. But what is your favorite book that you would recommend to an aspiring leader?
Oh, okay. So it depends on where they are in their growth.
Okay.
If it's someone like me, injured and starting to believe in themselves, I would recommend the 15 invaluable laws of growth.
leaders. Yeah.
And that's by John Maxwell.
John Maxwell.
And because each chapter it stands on its own and kind of gives you a little wake up call on where are you and the possibilities of where you can be. So that would be a book that is foundational individually. And then there's another book also by John Maxwell that is Leader Shift.
Okay.
Leader Shift. And I think that one came out maybe 2 years ago. And that book is about us, depending on what position or rank we're in. Sometimes we get so stubborn about following a plan, and the plan in life, guess what, boys and girls, with this global stuff going on, right?
Yeah.
Guess what happened to all the plans we had? Gone. Right? So that book teaches a leader that maybe it's in a more mature state that you have to be able to shift your decisions. Don't be so stubborn about following the plan that you forget the goal, that you forget what the vision is for your people. So those two books,
Very cool.
Awesome.
Pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and we always add them to our show notes too, so that people can kind of go back and see some of the recommendations you have.
Can I show you another one?
Yes.
Sure.
3 books?
Yes. Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill.
Yep. So it is.
You guys read it
Just
too?
read that.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that was a great book.
Like
too.
this right here, right? Is like
Yeah.
is all that. See, that's why I'm here with you guys.
Kindred spirits. Yeah.
Yes. All right, cool. So, and then we always end up with the final one, which is a little bit more of a deep question. How do you find your harmony between life, learning, and leadership? Because at the Llama Lounge, we're all about life, learning, and leadership. So how do you find your harmony between those 3 concepts?
It is because I know my purpose. So, and I also believe that there's no true balance. You said harmony, and I do agree with that 100%. And that is, and I'm not a music master by no means, but I do understand that when we listen to music, the reason that we understand music is because of the silence between, right? Between the keystrokes, between whatever, the silence. So the harmony comes, okay, let me show you guys. Balance is you in the center. And because you want to keep balance, you're not growing and you're not moving, because if you move, you're going to be off balance. So if you move this way, you're going to be off balance. But if you have harmony, then all this just moves in a nice, beautiful flow. So beautiful. I don't have one thing that's stronger than the other. I welcome everything, and depending on what's going on with my life, then you find yourself in that beautiful harmony in which you find peace in the pieces of silence in between the things that you're doing.
Wow.
Incredible.
Mind blown. I know, right? That was amazing. I don't know any other way to wrap this up because that was a perfect ending there. Ericka, thank you so much once again.
I don't know if you have a microphone that you can drop real quick, but
yeah, just drop it because that was just amazing.
Oh yeah, you got your little mini mic. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Thank you again, and we absolutely have to
I'm honored. I am truly honored, and it is so nice to spend time with you, both of you, and to be able to share and talk, and to also think alike.
Yeah.
Right? And that is that we three want to add value to people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And give hope to the ones that might be struggling, and to the people that say maybe not me, for the three of us to tell them, yes, you can do it too.
Yeah, why not you? Why not you?
Why not
right?
you? Exactly.
Yeah, that is awesome. Thank you so much. And to all our listeners, I don't say this often, but you're welcome, because that was amazing. And I know you're all going to get something out of that. and, as always, be safe, stay healthy, and llamas are out. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the show. We'd love for you to connect with us at www.llama-leadership.com and on Facebook at facebook.com/Llama Leadership, and also on Instagram at Llama Leaders. And a big thanks to Mike Whitmer for the music. To check out more of this stuff, go to soundcloud.com/Mike-Whitmer. Thanks again. See you on the next episode.